it started out that the King of Trimaris, right before we were going to Gulf Wars, was let's do the Centaurian Challenge. So I was in Meridias at the time, and so I got on the Meridian Kingdom page and said, hey, who's going to join me? 8 people joined. We finished it, and then 8 more people joined. And
Wow.
so pretty soon we had 3,000 posts on the Kingdom page, and it was all you saw. And I felt so bad because it was just overwhelming the Kingdom page that I moved it, hence the 2.0. And it took on a life of its own. And so I woke up at 2 in the morning, and it was just this thing, you know. And so I contacted a lady by the name of Tiki Algi, who is an embroiderer, and I said, I need something. And so she came back with the Reaper patch. That's actually all of her own intellectual capital.
Wow.
I told her I wanted the 100 days and the Decimilia, which is 10,000. And the Reaper patch, I mean, I didn't even name the group. They actually named themselves We Are Reapers, which was great. And the patch itself became this thank you from me. Thank you for your ownership. Thank you for prospering yourself, for doing this kind of thing. And then it turned into a tool. So you see people walk across the field and they're like, hey, what's that? And so now you have this conversation about fighting and ownership. Or you have people go, hey, brother, hey, sister. Hey, sister Reaper, hey, brother Reaper. And so now you had this community. And then it just started like spreading across the known world. And so I think one of the things I'm hugely grateful for is that it is such a good community.
And we are live officially. Mute that. Okay. Hello, everybody, for in the Facebook land and those watching in the video chat. I guess I should probably post a link so you guys can join this too. Link is in the comments on the live video on Facebook, so feel free to join there if you'd like to. Tonight we are going to be working with or listening to Sir Brealthen. Sorry, I botched it that time. Had it correct the last couple of times, but
Bree's good. Bree works.
Sir Bree. She is from, like, say your kingdom one more time,
Trimaris, right.
Trimaris, the Florida area. She's also the host of the 100-day PELL challenge. If you haven't checked that out, you should. It's one thing that I did recently, and it has fundamentally changed the game for me because not only is she there to help critique your work and hold you accountable to something that is a little bit bigger than all of us, there's also a lot of other dukes and knights there to also critique you and help you to be better. But with that, that's her baby, so I'm going to turn the tides over to her and let her take this show by the horns. So feel free to take over.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for considering me. I love what you're doing. You've had some really heavy hitters on recently, so some fabulous information from these folks. I'm going to start by introducing myself. I'm Sir Brealthen de Reims. I've been fighting SCA heavy for 33 years. I started out in kendo. That's my background. So I have a very tailored look towards the dojo. I came from the dojo, and so my 5 things are SCA orientated, but they are also very much my foundation, which is that dojo. So I'm just going to get right into it. I'm going to kind of take a page out of Duke Kuhn's book and kind of do a new fighter to the far end intermediate fighter. You've had enough Dukes on here to really kind of cover the high end stuff. So one thing you'll hear me talk a lot about, and that has been mentioned in various themes in your other guests, is ownership. ownership is hugely important to me. So ownership / mindset. And ownership can cover a huge range of things. Um, ownership of going to practice, ownership of seeking knowledge, ownership of taking care of your weapons and your gear, being ready when you step on the field at practice or for a tournament or for a war. So ownership is huge for me. It really makes or breaks a fighter in the long term, I think. There's a lot of people that put gear on and they go out there and they love what we do, but they don't have that sense of ownership in some ways. They kind of expect the knights or their knights or elder squires to handhold for a very long period of time. And in some ways we do that, but really what it boils down to is that ownership of your own journey. And so the mindset part comes into what is your journey? What are you looking at? What would you like to accomplish? For me, when I entered the dojo, I knew that I wanted to be a black belt one day. I wanted to be considered a master. And so the SCA was a little bit different, actually. The first couple of years of the society, I was like, woo, party. I wasn't very interested in becoming, a knight. I didn't really have that perspective. It wasn't until a few years later that I started really considering the transition, say, from kendo to knighthood, that mastery of SCA prowess, or as well as, the dojo prowess. And so that's kind of funny, because I look at that transition, and it really was a mindset for me. It was, okay, now I've taken a different turn here mentally. So, there's nothing wrong with saying I want to fight wars and that's all I want to do, and being okay with that yourself and telling people that you're okay with that. Well, you could be a knight. Well, I just want to fight wars, and not feeling that pressure I got to be a knight, right? To just enjoy the best warfighter that you can be, or hey, I just want to fight tournaments. I'm not really interested in peerage. So defining your mindset and looking at the short-term, mid-term, long-term of your journey, right, is something that I think is mentally conditioning, and I think is really important in part of that ownership process. So, for me, it was okay. Well, in the first couple of years, I wanted to win a tourney. I wanted to train and develop my skills and my mindset to win a tourney. So I was really focused on winning my little local tourney there. It wasn't a very deep field, but I figured, hey, I had a shot. And I was also fighting those guys every week, every month, right? So I knew what they were throwing or what their blocks were. And so I thought, okay, this is an area that I can take that ownership, work my mindset, and I'm going to go win that tourney, that local Shire tourney. And I did. So, that was kind of like, okay, step one, right? I can block, I can stay alive, and hey, I can win a small local tourney. And I think that setting goals and forward momentum your path, as we like to say, is really important. It helps you streamline and stay out of the weeds, because it's not hard to get into the weeds, and you have people talking to you too. You're amazing, you're great, so as people like to celebrate your victories or your path, your journey, it's really important too that you stay focused on what your end goals are and what you really want for yourself. And so ownership and mindset, I think, are probably one of the things right out of the gate to consider. I know that, Tillis, you've taken a lot of ownership on your own self right now, right? You went from the 100-day PELL challenge to just absolutely skyrocketing into different directions and and prospering people. Here you are, trying to prosper people, and that for me is really important too. So the second one is a big one. physical conditioning and equipment. That is really, really big stuff in any kind of martial art or sport. You know, football, swimming, hockey, judo, kendo. I mean, even archery. You have the physical conditioning that you need. I'm not afraid to say it. I'll be 52 this year. I've been fighting since I was 14, and I've only had 2 major injuries that I've had to take time out to recover from. And one was actually muscular shoulder surgery, but I attribute my longevity to my physical conditioning. I'm not that big, especially in our SCA world. You know, I'm small fry. As Duke Adamar likes to say, I'm tiny. So thank you, Grace. So, but you know, I'm 5'2", 155 pounds, and physical conditioning in our big boy, you know, hard hitting society is really important. So I do a lot of small muscle work, stabilizer muscle work, and then larger group. And like a lot of the guys have already said, you know, we do a sport that's very different than a lot of sports. We have that positioning, movement, and then high activity. And so even in treadmill, you know, I'll speed walk for 3 minutes, and then I will dead run for 3 minutes, speed walk for 3 minutes, dead run for 3 minutes. And so HIIT training too is great. Physical conditioning is just, yeah, I can't say enough about it. For longevity, to reduce injury, to be your best self, to be your strongest self. Yeah, you got to get into whatever it is. I mean, my dojo is my gym. I'm sorry, my garage. I have a gym in my garage. I have my dojo, my PELL. It's all there. It's, you know, so I literally get home from work and go right to my training before I even walk into the house, which is my personal discipline. So let's talk about equipment. Equipment varies. The new fighter comes onto the field, and we're notorious for putting him into whatever we've got. So, you know, that new fighter, they can't turn their head over because that helm bites into the shoulder, or, you know, they can't really cross their arms because the body armor doesn't work. Sure, I get it. Beginning fighter, you know, you're going to get him on the field with whatever you've got. But it comes back to ownership to that fighter. You've got to get equipment that works with you, that rides with how your body movement is. You know, when I started out, there was not go to the internet and buy a helmet. It didn't exist, right? You know, we were literally cutting apart gym lockers to use the metal to build armor. Or street signs, of course, you know, I mean, even carpet, which was terrible, you know, and then of course, my great ancestry was Freon can helmets, right? So equipment's really important, guys, you know, to be light but protective. I've had to custom make all of my own armor over the years. It's better now. You know, I can actually go out and buy a 22-inch helmet, right? Which is this little tiny helmet. It's like, you look at all the helmets and it's like big helmet, big helmet, big helmet. Oh, tiny helmet. That must be Breeze, right? So, you know, you can actually go out and buy that kind of stuff today, which is fantastic. But, you know, as you go from a beginning fighter to intermediate to the far end of the intermediate side, you really need to make sure that your armor is working with you, that it's protective, that it's light. I think the first shield I was ever given weighed 15 pounds. It was, you know, I weighed 125 pounds. It was crazy. I mean, at a terrible time even trying to get it up to make a block. I think today my shield weighs maybe 4.5, 5 pounds. It's really light, crazy light. But again, highly protective, highly maneuverable, and light. You know, it's really kind of where you want to go. But, and I will take a stop for a moment here and say, please, female protection. We've come light years in female protection. So guys out there, ladies out there, it's one of my soapboxes. You may be using a piece of leather and foam, which is the traditional route, but we've come so far from that. Go out there and find yourself some really great protection, because you just don't want to get hit there and have to go to the ER for that kind of thing. And I may or may not be speaking from experience. Okay, that's a whole other story. So, yeah, not where you want to go, folks. And, yeah, so female protection and even male protection this day and age has really just changed on the market. So that's something that I would highly suggest. Okay, number 3. Some of you know me for this. PELL work. Yay! Yay. So every sport has its foundation in drill work. The PELL is not new, guys. The PELL, I think the first mention of the PELL, and I'm sure somebody out there is going to correct me on this, the first mention in manuscript was sometime around the 13th century for PELL work. Stick in the ground, you know? But the PELL work is really an essential foundation for what we do. And I'll tell you right now, 100 isn't enough. It's good. It's a great place to start, and I want you to start. But 100 strikes on the PELL a night, push yourselves. Own it. You know, I get out there and I bow to my PELL just like I would my sensei, and we go round and round. I've been using the PELL since I got into the society, and you know, I can tell you, when I first started, it wasn't fun. I didn't like it. I found it boring. But I didn't understand the PELL. I didn't understand the things that I could really do with it, and how it would progress my fighting. And so some of the things I'll say to you now is, if you guys are standing in front of the PELL and you're just throwing a flat snap, great, you're doing something. And I'm not going to begrudge you that. But I will tell you that that's not true PELLing for me. You know, true PELL work is, you're going to throw that flat snap, you got your shield, and that shield's going to come up and protect that side of the ear. That shot's going to come out, that shield comes up, right? And then you're going to retreat into a block. And then you're going to step back into guard, right? So in my martial art, and many, there are katas. And so the drill is very much the same principle. You present yourself to that PELL, you want to work on a flat snap. Well, there's huge ingredients to a flat snap, right? A flat snap comes out, that shield comes up, right? You might want to come over and do an offside. Okay, fine. So as you're working with the PELL, put your helmet on, put your band braces on, pick up your shield, okay? And train in your equipment, because it binds and moves very differently than free flow PELL work. And so when you actually are in your armor and you go out to a tournament, you're like, I've been practicing on the PELL for 6 months. What's wrong here? Why am I not throwing like I was throwing on the PELL? I was awesome on the PELL, and now everything's gone. Well, it's because you're not emulating as closely as possible to the actual combat situation. So when you're on the PELL, guys, it's about doing the full pattern of movement. And also, one of the great things too is you've got imaginations. Use your imagination. All right, so when I'm on the PELL and I think, okay, this guy's going to throw a flat snap. Well, what am I doing? I'm going to block that flat snap. I'm going to roll into a different position. I'm going to throw my shot. And so imagine the PELL that is actually throwing back at you will train you mentally. And so all this PELL work that you do is the muscle memory, right? I mean, that's what we're doing on the PELL. We're creating muscle memory. And so, you know, the big asterisk at the bottom of the page, don't train bad muscle memory. Please get help. You know, go to an elder fighter, go to a knight, go to a duke. It doesn't matter. They all want to help you. There are people that really want to give away information. And of course, today, YouTube. Wow, what a great resource, right? Michael Snyder, Gregor Hawk, Sir Gregor Hawk.
Amazing videos.
Yeah, I mean, and they really are very technical videos, wonderful for technique and breaking things down for you, and a lot of what I'm talking about right now. We've been very blessed to have him on the 100-day PELL challenge and to give of his time so freely and his videos so freely. So shout out to Sir Gregor Hawk, thank you. And the many others that have also done that too. There are and other information, so thanks for that. There's another type of training outside of PELL work. There's a school of thought that says, well, I don't do PELL work because in a fight, I train myself to look for openings. I'm a big proponent of both. Do your PELL training, but also train yourself in a fight to concentrate on when those openings happen, to use that quickness and to strike for those openings. And again, you cannot replace hat time with PELL work. Hat time is critical. So let's talk about practice and hat time for a second. You know, again, we have our drills and our foundations. Going to weekly fighter practice is a foundation. That's the place that, you know, you take those three things, go to practice, and you work them out, right? You got 10, 15 people at practice, I hope. And you take those three things and you work them out on each person. Okay, I'm going to try that inside thigh. I'm going to try the wrap, whatever it is. But you work those three things until you get them right. And then you cross them off your list and you go to the next three things. You know, my theory on practice is you're not there to win, right? You're there to lose and train and work those things out. I don't really care if you're winning at practice. You know, practice is that mindset of muscle memory and footwork and technique and just really creating that solid foundation for yourself so that when you are in your fight, when you are in that tournament, your body is ready, your mind is ready, you're reactionary. The Japanese like to say mind, no mind, which if you haven't read up on that, definitely take a read on mind, no mind. And I think some of your more advanced fighters, you know, you're in a fight and things slow down, right? And you're like, you can just see everything, and it's moving in slow motion, and your shot just comes in perfectly. That is mind, no mind, part of it. And we strive to get back to that point, to be able to see that fight in slow motion. And it's your body just taking over. And that happens from years of disciplined conditioning and mental and physical conditioning. So I'm always available if you guys want to talk more about that.
Absolutely.
So let's move on to the fourth thing.
Okay.
Understanding and defining the capable self. Okay. Anybody's capable of fighting. You know, from 5 foot tall to 6'5", you're capable of fighting. But you may not be capable of throwing the same shot, the same as a 6'5" versus a 5 foot tall. So understanding your strengths and your weaknesses, and capitalizing on your strengths. Now, I speak to this because, again, you know, I'm fairly challenged as far as height goes in our society. So I play to my strengths. So as His Grace Bellatrix was saying, he's got crazy strength, right? And so he's played to that strength over his many years of training. You know, speed. I'm pretty fast. So I use my speed and I use my footwork to create angles and so, but again, at 5'7", maybe I don't want to throw a scorpion on somebody who's, you know, 6'3". If it's presented to me, then of course, but understanding what your strengths are and playing to those strengths. Currently, one of my squires, I think, is 5'4", and you know, we speak to this beginning fighter, and so we speak to, okay, if you're fighting most people who are 6 foot and taller, let's work the body, right? So we're working the legs, we're working that body, we're working, the arms, and basically, working what the better angles are for this individual until the prowess comes up and the understanding of the technical aspect of maneuvering your opponent or fighting your fight. So I think it's really important that people understand the capable self. What are you really capable at? What are you really good at? And then capitalizing on that. I know, Tillis, you've got some speed, but you're also really patient. Like, so I watch in your videos, you've got some footwork and some patience there. And so, if you're working to what your strengths are, you improve in increments, right? And that's really part of your journey, is to improve continuously, right? Anytime you feel yourself plateauing, well, take that ownership, take that mindset, and seek. Own the next stage of your development. There's people out there that want to help you, so seek for it and continue. I mean, even today, I seek out people to train with, seek out people to better my footwork, to better my timing, to better my mental game. And that's a lifelong pursuit, really, for people that do what we do and that are on the very high end. I mean, you can talk to all the dukes that we've already interviewed, and you can really see that they still, even today, are seeking out people to better themselves with. So the capable self and defining that for yourself. What are your strengths? Play to your strengths. So, okay, that brings me to number 5, and I've already spoken about it a little bit. That's footwork. Guys, footwork is crucial, and you see it in every martial art. You see it in karate, you see it in judo, you see it in boxing, right? Footwork is crucial to creating angles. If you're coming straight in at your opponent and doing the thug game, well, that might get you a little ways down the road if you're a big fella, but it's not going to help you in the long run. Footwork is absolutely crucial. It's undeniably crucial. And so there's so many resources out there to understanding how footwork plays into the fight, creating angles, creating opportunities. But and also you need to be doing footwork on the PELL. So there is the hourglass theory, putting an hourglass down in front of your PELL and traveling those angles of the hourglass. There's the ladder drills, all kinds of stuff out there to start your development in footwork. So, and I think the thing I'd like to end on as far as my 5 things is comportment. So it's kind of an extra, but comportment on and off the field is part of that code that we seek. And comportment gets you the guys that want to teach you, right? It really is a big thing with me. How you conduct yourself to new fighters, how you conduct yourself to advanced fighters, how you conduct yourself in general, is part of what we do, right? It's part of
Absolutely.
the honor that we exhibit on the field or off the field. And so I can tell you right now, if somebody comes up to me and they're like, "Hey, you want to fight?" I'm like, "Sure, let's fight." But if somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, I would like a pass with you, Sir Brealthen," I'm like, "A pass? Wow, that's a really fancy way of saying I would love to fight you. That's awesome." And it's a very subtle thing, but it changes the dynamic of our game. Or if somebody comes up to me and says, "Thank you," a simple thank you will turn my head to come back and teach you more. So guys, consider comportment, how you conduct yourself with these folks that are reaching out to you to train you, and how you conduct yourself with the future generations. So that's pretty much my 5. Got any questions for me?
Yes, I will. As always, I will open up the questions. I had, and I tell everybody this, I've been challenged by Sir Helga to ask you, out of these 5 and the extra one, which one came easiest for you as you aspired to knighthood or just over your SCA career, and which one was the hardest for you to learn?
Okay, you broke up on the first one, so.
Okay. Which one was easiest for you, and then
No,
which
before
one
that.
was? Yeah, and then what was the hardest part? Which one was the hardest?
About my 5?
Yep.
Okay. I would say probably the easiest was the ownership,
Okay.
right? My mindset and my ownership. I mean, I knew what I wanted. Um, I carved my first sword when I was 6, right? So I mean, that's my passion, to work with the blade, and so that really was the easiest. I knew what I wanted. I knew where I wanted to go with it. And I knew that my mindset was probably a little bit challenging because that changed over the years.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would say ownership and mindset was probably the easiest. The most difficult was definitely, gosh, man, was the actual physical, was the actual physicality of what we do. Putting on 30 pounds of armor and and learning the footwork and understanding the techniques, and because it's a big pie, right? With many slices. You've got footwork, stance, you've got range, you've got timing, you've got all the different varieties of how you can throw a blade, how you can block, and so putting that all together to be competent against opponents, it took me a while. It took me a while to get all of that together. So I think that part was really probably the hardest over a long. And even today, I'm still working on all those ingredients, right? Trying to tweak and better, and age plays a factor too. So, but now I'm just sneakier and craftier.
Old age and treachery, right?
Exactly right. Yeah. So.
Okay, perfect. The next question usually comes from David Garcia. I know you know him from the group. He always wants me to ask, how do you feel about, or what do you think as younger aspiring fighters that are new to the game can increase their longevity in the game, from like preventing injuries and how to work through those kinds of things and avoid them?
Well, again, conditioning is so key to keep you from injury. But longevity is also a mindset too. I've had injuries over the years, and I had to decide, do I want to do physical therapy to stay on the field? So I went to physical therapy. So it's not just staying in the gym or working bands or whatever you're doing to increase muscle tone and strength. Also a mindset about, hey, if I am injured, or do I want to sit on the couch, or do I want to go work out? Do I want to eat cheesy poofs and watch TV, or do I want to go to that tournament? So part of that is definitely exercise and conditioning and stamina. The other part of that is that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Where do I want to be? And how much do I want to put into this, right?
Yeah.
Because that conditioning, that health process is really what's going to create the longevity.
Okay.
So I hope I answered that one for you, David.
He's watching on Facebook, so I'm sure he'll let me know here shortly. So, Do we have any questions from anybody else in? I know we've got a couple, looks like Sir Gregor asked one, but let's ask people in the meeting if there's any questions for people inside the meeting and not on Facebook just yet.
Okay.
What's the hardest aspect of coming back from your current injury?
Stamina. You know, I've been in physical therapy for almost 10 months. So I had surgery in August of last year, and on my 1-year anniversary of my knighting, I actually was able to take the field and fight. So that was a glorious day. But it told me that my stamina is terribly low. My timing and whatnot came back. So the training that I've done over the years definitely started to show up. Just pure muscle memory and timing and whatnot. But the stamina, you know, I'm like, wow, okay, more conditioning, more physical activity, more getting in the gym. I think that's because, you know, you've already done like 10 months of physical therapy. So you're like,
Yep.
yeah, and you're like, nope. So, and age too, you know, age is a factor, right? So it's much, much harder to build muscle, keep muscle at 52 than it was 32. So that's really been challenging to, like I said, get up off the couch with that mindset and get out in that garage and say, all right, I'm going to do this 10-minute circuit, and then I'm going to do some PELL work, and then I'm going to do some footwork, and I'm going to increase my stamina because I'm not a fan of cardio. That's why I fight, so I don't have to run. Right? So, right.
Good way to put it. Good way to put it.
Yeah, right. Like cardio has always been one of those things that I'm like, oh, I hate it, you know. So, but that's a huge part of what we do. So really, it's been coming back from the surgery and whatnot. It's been building stamina.
Okay, perfect. All right, going to the Facebook. Star Shoe York asks, I know we've talked about moving in on your opponent when your stature is small. They say they're 5'5".
Yeah.
What is better, quick or strength and training?
Hey, Star. So, you know, you're talking about ranges, right? So you're talking, and what we speak of C, B, and A range. A range being, of course, for me, and for yourself being 5'5", you know, all you get to see is, you know, chest. That's really all we see when we're in A range, right? Or not even collarbone half the time. You're just, you know, right here. And so you're asking about speed and strength, right?
Yes, speed and strength. Which one is better for her to train?
Well, I think the answer there is transitioning in ranges with speed. Okay, so if you're going to go from C to B, which would be your optimal range against your opponent, you got to stay alive to get there. So you need to move quickly, but you also need to be able to, and I believe that Star is rapier. So you also have to be able to throw something out there to get to that next range, right, from C to B. So strength, I think necessarily may not be what you're looking for. I mean, obviously it's important, but that transition from C to B into a killing range for you, yeah. But again, it's not just that simple of an answer. It's not just speed, right? It's a little bit of trickery, you know, throwing some defense out there, creating some angles, right? So it's not just speed. But yeah, great question.
Perfect. All right. Sir Gregor asks, is inspiring others to reach higher something that has always been a part of who you are?
Oh, hey, Gregor Hawk. You know, I think in the beginning, it was a self-orientated journey. You know, the codes that we adopt. One of my favorites is generosity. You know, there's the virtues that I speak of. And I think in the beginning, it was very much a self-orientated journey, you know, where I was going, what I wanted, what I wanted to put into my training, what I wanted to see from my training. It wasn't until I think I was further down the road that I felt competent enough to really actually help people. And then sometimes, I think you even have to fake it, right? Because, you're teaching people and you're learning yourself at the same time. But there's that part of ownership, and some of that's given to you, right? Some of that's given to you by people saying, hey, you inspire me to be better. You inspire me to do this thing. And there's a lot of responsibility with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think, in the later part of the last 33 years, I started taking on that ownership and prospering folks. That's a really big word for me, to prosper people. Not only to prosper yourself, but to prosper those around you, because in the end, I truly believe that what we do in the society is such a grounding foundation for folks. We have family, extended, chosen family. We develop a skill set that most people don't have. We develop a code of ethic that a lot of people in the mundane world don't speak of today. So yeah, I think that happened kind of down the road, and I wasn't looking for it. It was just something that kind of developed, I think. So, and then I'm grateful for, and still a little bit of awe over. So, but yeah, thank you for the question.
Oh, there's more. Don't worry. That was a good question, though.
Okay.
Core, a fellow fighter from my group, asks, what does fighting mean to you? What drives your passion is probably the better question.
So core, is it?
Yep.
So what's it mean to me? Goodness, it defines me. I've been fighting since I can remember. It's like breathing, right? It's your passion. It's the thing that you go to, and when you don't have it, there's kind of that feeling of like, wow, what am I going to do now? Because it does define who we are in so many ways. And a lot of the folks that we've talked to already have martial arts backgrounds to begin with, and so yeah, it's definitely always been a passion for me, and that defining a part of my defining of my character. So what was the other part of that question, please? Attilas?
He was asking what drives your passion is probably the better question. So I think you answered it pretty good.
Well, there's actually like part B of that. What drives my passion is, I think, the betterment of folks that pick up what we do, right? Helping them along the path, helping and seeing them grow, seeing them develop into more confident individuals, and then watching them pass on of the tools that we gain. Like I said, we gain a variety of tools. So yeah, that's definitely passion. I think early on the passion was probably, it kept me out of trouble. Right. So that was really a big driver when I was younger. I was like, oh, I think I'll go to the gym, or the dojo, and that'll keep me out of trouble. So keep me off the streets. So.
And make you a better fighter. So
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Right.
All right. So the next one, it looks like we've got two more. So for now, I'm sure there might be some that roll in afterwards, but the next one is from, I want to say, Mika Beam. What technique is your bread and butter?
Oh, that's a really good question. So being a smaller statured fighter, I like a leg shot. So I'll usually set up with a fake or misdirection to take a leg. That takes my bigger opponent down to their knees. So now I don't have to chase them. I think I did mention I don't like running. So, that's one of them. I think other technique is I do like misdirection. And misdirection is a powerful tool. And so you guys who are not developing misdirection or using misdirection, or what we like to call fakes. Get on it. It's a powerful tool, and it's a justifiable tool. And I would call it definitely a technique to use misdirection. So hope that helps.
Perfect. Yeah. All right. Last one on Facebook, and then Thorin asked another one. So you've got two more now.
Okay.
I'm going to probably botch his name, but it looks like Rafael Pozos or Pazos. Mindset question. What would you say to a fighter who got a bad start? Through sheer stubbornness, managed to stay in the game, including a run to Penzik and golf. Stopped when he realized what it was doing to him physically and psychologically. Has the right reason to return to the singles field, yet gets triggered by memories of said bad start.
Okay. So ownership, right? You know that you've got some mental triggers there. You know that you've got some negativity there. So I would say, even your question says to me that part of you wants to return, right? This question is a very powerful question. And so your sense of ownership needs to be magnified, right? You need to be able to overcome this negative thing and find the joy that really is your personal joy, not what people are trying to sell to you. Fighting's great. It is great, but that's not going to bring you back to the field and help your mindset. Your personal ownership of your journey and what you want out of it is going to help you overcome the negative mindset that you've been given. And again, you're repatterning thoughts, much like throwing a bad snap, right? And bad muscle memory. This is bad mental memory. And so you have to redevelop that. And I hope that you find your way back to the field with joy in your heart, because even this question that's come from you is posing to me that when you do this, you'll be able to prosper others with that joy that you have reestablished for yourself. And that's a powerful thing. So hopefully you'll be able to do that for yourself.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. So, all right. From Thorin, he says, or they say, what is your favorite style to fight and why? Or fight against, excuse me, and why?
Fight against. Well, I really enjoy fighting against Florentiners. Um, it's tricky, right? Especially if you have a really great Florentine person. You know, there's a lot going on there, and so the mental game changes, the tactical game changes. If they're really good at Florentine, there's a lot of push and pull in the fight itself. So that's a lot of fun to fight against. I can tell you the one you didn't ask, by the way, but I will tell you the one I dislike fighting against the most is Glaive. Because what? Running. Right? It's like, there it is again. It's running. And Glaive's hurt, I mean, it's like it's coming from outer space. Yazi. Yeah, Sir Yazi in Meridies. Yeah, okay. So and God bless, God rest, Sir Takamatsu out of Trimaris. Both magnificent Glaive individuals that, man, I hate it. So, but you didn't ask that, so that's a freebie.
Freebie, perfect. We love freebies. And the last question is coming from Amanda Whipple.
Hey, Amanda.
They ask, do you find that there are any advantages or disadvantages to being a female fighter?
Well, I can say that some of the advantages through my career is being underestimated. Nothing like helping you in a tournament to be underestimated. Now that's changed a bit. As we've progressed in the society, that underestimation has definitely become less and less of female fighters, I would say, in the last 15 years. But early on, to be underestimated was glorious. Please underestimate me. That would be awesome. I think really it's a mindset, right? Some people like to say, well, there's a difference between male fighting and female fighting, and there might be some attributable truth to that, but My personal truth is, you know, you own this, right? So advantage, disadvantage, it's what you are going to make of that. Disadvantages, there can be tons of them, but that's your perception, right? There were a lot of disadvantages thrown at me, but I chose not to engage them, right, mentally, but to say, okay, yeah, it's there, I see you, but let's move past that. So physically on disadvantages, um, that's a truth just as much for guys as it is gals, right? If you're a 5'7" guy going up against, you know, Duke such and such who's 6'8", it's a disadvantage. Again, disadvantages through technique, mental mindset, and that all comes back to the overall ownership of your journey.
Another great answer. Okay, last question officially. This is the last one from Kensei Lash. He asks, what would you suggest in teaching ladies something as simple as how to grip your sword? He's taught martial arts for many years, but in the SCA, he has seen many different opinions on this, but what do you use?
So the best grip on a sword
I
for
think I think
for
just in
women.
general. I think just in general, like how to teach women in the game.
Okay. So let's address that two parts. Let's address first the grip on the sword, because that's actually a great question just in itself. You know, a grip should be tailored to the natural grasp, right? A lot of times what I find is I'll pick up somebody's sword, especially for a beginner, and the grip is too large, right? So they don't have a good grasp. It's just needs to be shaved down and shaped for that individual. Grip also, a lot of folks, they hold onto their weapons so tightly that they literally force the blood out of their hands. Okay, so when you're on your knees and you're like this, and you're grasping your weapon so tightly, you can literally feel like the energy, the blood just flowing out of your hands, you know. And so it's good to have a firm grip, but to make sure that you have a loose enough grip that you're actually, you know, working that blood flow. The other part of that about training women is it's a conversation, right? You know, sitting down and asking an individual what their background is, what their ideologies are, where they want to go with their path, with their journey. You know, some women just want to try it. They don't necessarily want to be a knight. Maybe they just want to do combat archery, and this goes with anybody. I don't want to generalize, but your question's rather specific, so let's stay there. So training women is not very different than training a guy, right? The armor is a bit different, right? Because we're a little squishier in some places. The weapons, you know, weight is a factor for some women. You know, you put a 15-pound helmet on a woman that isn't cut properly and she can't move her head, well, this is a huge deterrent. So, but the basics are the basics, right? You know, footwork is the basic. PELL work is a basic. Training people to use range, how to cross distance without getting killed, defense, all of that is the same, right? You know, power generation, women have great power generation. We generate it a little bit differently, but it's taught the same way for the most part. You know, most women do not have the upper body strength that men do. So power generation is a little bit different in that case, but power generation is power generation. So I would say that it's a conversation first with the woman that you're training. And secondly, it's look at her gear. Please look at her gear. It's really important. And that's for any newbie actually. But to protect a woman with the softer, squishy bits, yes, please. And training, you know, give them a path. Give them a path forward. Okay, you know, we're going to do this set of blocks training, and then we're going to do, and now that you've got that down, let's go to the next. So I hope that answered your question. If it doesn't, you can round back to me and we can talk more.
Perfect, perfect. I know him personally, so he'll let me know, and then if I need to, I'll put you two together. So, with that, that's all the questions that we have. So we're gonna bring this one to a close. I'd like to personally thank you, Sir Bree, for coming on and doing this for us. Uh, Sir Gregor has always said that you just ooze inspiration, and he is 100% correct. Now that I've seen it via video, and I hope one day that we can actually, you know, have a couple passes in real life. So,
That would
um,
please me. That would please me very much
yeah,
to have some passes with you. And before we sign off, I'd like
yeah,
to say to everybody out there, I'm available. You can contact me in various forms. I will take the time out to work with you or help connect you with somebody to work with. So own it, keep your passion high, prosper others, and thank you for this opportunity.
yeah. Thank you guys, and thank you all for watching and tuning in. As always, without you guys, none of this would be possible. So, um, yeah. Uh, I guess that's your final thoughts, and we're just gonna say good night. So, all right. Thanks again. Have a good night,
Thank you.
everybody.